The newest episode of Survivor 50 may perhaps be the goofiest, the wackiest, the absolute most cray-cray episode in Survivor history, and I say that in literally the best way possible. This was an absolutely amazing freaking episode of Survivor. So anyways, let's go over this episode, shall we? The episode starts off with the Purple Tribe being super duper sad, waving farewell to Kyle because he's being medevaced because his ankle is freaking dead. And Genevieve is the most sad out of everyone, and she has a confessional about how it's gonna be so sad that her homie G Kyle is out of the game and he felt like home. Is Genevieve adopted? And then the whole Purple Tribe trauma bonds over this experience, except for Rizzo, who is just aura farming in the background. What the freak is that face, brother? And then Q the cutie said that Kyle's departure was a tad sad, but the sadness cleared his mind. And trust me, pal, you don't want to see Q with a cleared mind. He is a menace, buddy. And then Q goes, "Hey Colby, remember Kyle's last words?" And Colby goes, did he say that his ankle was broken?" And Q goes, "No, Colby. He said one of us needs to win it, you bozo." And then Q says, with Kyle not being there, they're down in numbers. They have their alliance of Q the Cutie, Colby Jack Cheese, Stinky Stephanie, and Jenna Queen. But with Q not being able to vote, they need to bring in the Riz Dork to fill Kyle's spot. Wait a second. Is this whitewashing? And then Q the Cutie tells Kyle 2.0 that he does not have his vote for the next tribal council, and freaking Rizdork hits him with the shocked Pokemon face. And then Rizzo says coming into the season, he devoured 15 bags of pure sugar, so he was very hyper and he thought it rubbed people the wrong way. Why would you think that, Rizzo?
Rizzo's annoying as hell.
And then Rizzo says now he's climbed to the top of the food chain on his tribe. Rizzo, brother, know the freak you haven't. And then we have about, a 2.5 second Survivor intro. I don't freaking know what happened to the rest of the intro. Maybe somebody stole it, I'm not sure. And then we head to the Orange Tribe. And then Christian and Joe are talking about the fire 6 feet apart because they're not gay. And then Joe asks Christian if he's feeling good. And then it freaking appears that Christian is being possessed by some sort of freaking entity. But apparently, Christian just crapped into his trousers, pooped into his pants, absolutely left some beans in his britches. And then Joe goes, I don't think he sat in a puddle of water. I don't think he sat on a banana. Joe, what freaking banana is brown? And then Joe absolutely loses it in a confessional, absolutely starts giggling all over the place. And then Christian says, listen here, cameraman, if you follow me any further, you shall be a casualty. And then Emily also joins in with Joe laughing at Christian's colored britches. And I'm not gonna lie, if I was Christian in this situation and they spent an entire segment on how I pooped my pants, I would be suing CBS immediately. And then Christian hits us with this absolute banger one-liner. Trust me, it's gas. Good.
This prior experience are for me and me alone.
I wonder if this is Sage's favorite episode of Survivor. And then Diaper Boy says his wife is going to divorce him. That is no bueno. And then Christian does an impersonation of Bigfoot. And then we head into the reward challenge. And everyone on the other tribes is super sad to see that Kyle is no longer in the game, especially Camilla. She starts sobbing on the spot. And Jeff goes, you know what, Camilla? You're not gonna get any other freaking content this episode. What do you think about this, pal? And Dora the Explorer has a very sad reaction, and it's super heartwarming. And then Ozzy said he thought he was also gonna freaking die on his first challenge when he had to use the sticks to get the key off of the thing. And then Mr. Jeffrey himself says, Coach, you were also at that challenge. Can you relate to what Ozzy is saying? Oh my gosh, there's no freaking way. And then Mr. Dragon Slayer says he wants to set the record straight about the challenge. He said there was a key, we all fought really hard for it, and at one point Ozzy said to Q, if you knock it off, I'll let you have it. He said, I didn't say nothing with my 2 lips, so I didn't make no promises. And then Coach says, I'm gonna play this game like I always play it, with honor and integrity. And then Ozzy says, yeah, I think you are gonna play like you always play. At least the last time I played with you, absolute sick burn. You need some aloe vera for that burn, buddy. And the Purple Tribe loses the challenge because Aubrey is an absolute big giant geek nerd. And Coach says that every single word he said at the challenge was intentional. And then Coach says, yesterday's adversary is today's enemy. Today's enemy is tomorrow's adversary. Which I'm not sure what the freak that means, but it sounds absolutely freaking hard, and someone put that on a shirt right now. And then we head to the Purple Tribe doing a sour coconut rotation, and Angelina says it tastes like Sour Patch Kids, which is the only freaking thing she says in this entire episode. And then Colby tries a little bit of the sour coconut and freaking makes a face as if he's being shot by a minigun. I'm gonna go out on a limb and take a wild guess and say it doesn't actually taste like Sour Patch Kids. And then Q takes a sip as well and also hates it. Are you guys trying to poison the freaking strongest people on your tribe? What has happened? And then we cut to Aubrey and it just seems like she doesn't want to freaking be in the game. Like, why do we, like, she's just like, why do we freaking cast Aubrey again? Like, let's be for real. And then Aubrey says, I feel like I'm in the middle of a bunch of lunatics. Yeah, Aubrey, it's called freaking being entertaining. Maybe try it sometime. And then Aubrey says she can't tell who's good with who. It's like trying to solve in a Rubik's Cube. Aubrey, is your whole entire freaking personality just being a dork? Is that it, Pat? And then Aubrey has a sob story about how it's hard to play Survivor. No freaking duh. Someone just freaking bursted their Achilles tendon. And then, thank goodness, Jenna Queen comes back on my screen to save this absolutely abysmal Aubrey scene. And then Genevieve says, she's, noticed something strange, peculiar even. Aubrey has been like Gollum to the ring. She's been holding on to her backpack all day. And mayhaps there might be some Easter eggs and or an idol inside. So then pretty much every single other freaking person on this tribe other than Angelina hatched this plan to search Aubrey's bag in hopes of finding some Easter eggs and or an idol. And then Colby says, now if you go through somebody's bag outside of Survivor, that's a no-no right there, sir. But if you do it in Survivor, then all bets are off, you best believe. And then Q says that his job in the bag search was to be the lookout. He's gonna notify them if the stinky Aubrey ever approaches their vicinity. And then he said Colby's job was to look down the trails, and he said that Stephanie's job was to talk about her underwear to Aubrey to distract her. And then Q says, and we had Genevieve digging through the bag because she's an attorney. And I guess attorneys are trained bag diggers. And they didn't find anything. Womp, womp, womp. And then we head to the Blue Tribe. And Jonathan is doing some good old-fashioned spear fishing. And then Jonathan says that he loves that he gets to fish in Fiji, but he also loves the fact that it makes his tribe think he's a one-dimensional player, which he's not going to be this time. This time he's going to play a little bit differently. And then Jonathan brings the fish back, and hey, I forgot she was in the season. And then Jonathan takes Coach out to catch some fish. This can't possibly end terribly. And then Jonathan says his number one is Coach, which honestly is probably a pretty good number one to have in Survivor. And then after fishing for about 2 minutes, freaking Coach starts dying in the water. And they had to use one of their freaking safety boats to take him back to shore. Coach, what are you doing, buddy? And then Bro starts walking like he's 2,000 years old. And then Charlie makes like the freaking goofiest looking face I've ever seen in my entire life when he sees Coach. Then Coach says, and I quote, I would have died if it hadn't been for Jonathan. As if Jonathan just spawned a boat out of freaking nowhere. Coach, there are literally people that are there to freaking save you if you start drowning. That's literally the point of why they're there. Jonathan did not have a boat. And then Dee the dweeb says she likes everyone on her tribe, but Coach is way too old for her to home wreck, and Chrissy is too much of a mom to everyone. And then Chrissy starts barking out orders at camp like she's a Doberman. And then Charlie says he loves to form alliances with older women. That's his bread and butter. Which might be like in the top 10 craziest things ever said on Survivor, not gonna lie. But then Charlie says, you can't always play the same way, and everyone else freaking hates Chrissy because she's telling them what to do all the time, and they want to strangle her to sleep. So, he's actually not going to work with Chrissy. And then we head back to the Orange Tribe. And the Savannah and Rick are talking, and Rick's like, there's absolutely no way you didn't get an advantage at the journey. And she's like, no, I didn't get no advantage, Rick. I promise, pal. And then Savannah Banana says she played a very loyal game last time, and she wants to do it again, but she hasn't found her people yet. And then Oscar the Grouch walks up on their conversation. And then Ozzy and Savannah talk about forming a majority alliance of them and Joe, and Rick is not freaking having it. He's like, man, I already have my alliance with Emily and Christian, and honestly, if I boot out Joe, that frees up my game because bro is so freaking boring and wants to be a loyal, doyle player. Well, listen here, Mr. Devins, you can't boot out Joe because that's my mom's favorite player. And then Devin asks Joe if he can talk to him for 30 at the water well. And then Savannah's like, yo, are you gonna tell him about the alliance idea? And he's like, yeah, sure, why not? And then Joe saw this whispering and got a little bit, uneasy in his stomach region because he remembers in his last season he got absolutely outplayed and freaking pooped on by Camilla and Kyle with a secret alliance. And he does not want it to happen again. So he asked Devins, like, bruh, what the heck was that about? And for some reason, instead of Devins just telling him about the alliance idea, he just freaking straight up lies to his face. Devins, what the heck was this idea, brother? And the fact that Joe asked Rick a question made Mr. Rickarooney very upset and angry. Yeah. And then Christian, Sari, and Devins all have a conversation about how incredibly frustrating it is to play with Joe and how to leave him out of votes. And as Christian is talking about Joe nonsense, he finds something in the trees. Wow! He finds the Billie Eilish boomerang idol. Congratulations, Christian. And now Mr. Poopy Pants has to make a big decision on who to give this idol to. And of freaking course he chooses Aubrey of all people. Freaking Aubrey, Christian? Really, Christian? And of course this butt for brain starts sobbing right after she reads the thingamajigger. Why couldn't they freaking search her bag after she got the idol? And on the Purple Tribe, Q is trying to catch some food with Mr. Rizdork himself. And Q says it takes everyone in the tribe in order to make sure the tribe functions. Faxorino, Mr. Qster. And then freaking Rizzo somehow cuts himself and then says, guys, I gotta go, I gotta freaking leave. And Q says Rizzo is a lazy sack of potatoes. And then Mr. Rizdork says, I didn't come to Survivor to play camp, I came to cut throats, and I'm not gonna lie, this might be the most annoyed I've ever been with a player, like, in a while. That's, like, actually the dumbest confessional to maybe ever exist. Freak brother, the show is called Survivor. What do you think survive means, kid? And then Q says, I've been working my butt off at camp, and when I get back, I expect everybody else to be doing stuff too, but they're just freaking talking like Dorkelsteins. And then Q starts roasting the ever freaking crap out of Angelina, which is very amusing because she freaking doesn't have any confessionals this episode. And then we head into the immunity challenge. And to absolutely nobody's surprise, the Orange Tribe freaking loses again. Haha, losers! And then Ozzy pulls his idol out of his no-no regions and says he is not scared to play it. Then we head back to the losing tribe. And Sari is trying to convince everyone to not vote out Ozzy because he has better pros and cons than the other two people on the chopping block, being Joe and Savannah. And Sari tells Ozzy this, and he goes, you know what, Sari? I'm gonna give you my extra vote. I beg your pardon? Why the freak? And Joe and Devins get into a giant, massive disagreement. And am I the only one who thinks that Joe was like 1,000% in the right? Like, sure, are you allowed to lie in Survivor? Yeah, but if you lie directly to someone's face and they call you out, that doesn't mean that, like, it's just fine, bro. Like, what the freak are you, like... Rick, if someone directly lied to your face and you found out, would you just be aight with it? Like, would you just be cool with it, bro? And then Christian tells Rick that he indeed found the idol and sent it to someone on a different tribe. And then Christian tells him it was the Billie Eilish boomerang idol, and Rick goes, she's my favorite. There was a negative 1,000,000% chance that either of these men have ever freaking listened to Billie Eilish in their entire life. And then Rick says, I have an absolutely bonkers idea. We're going to take the rapping that you got from your idol that you sent to somebody else, and we're going to plant a fake idol at tribal council that we can find and use if need be later in the season. That is genius, Ricky boy. And then we head to tribal council, and like, it's pretty freaking obvious they're voting out Savannah. Like, sure, Joe's a little hard to work with, but like, Bro's the only freaking person on their tribe decent at challenges, and Savannah has an advantage they don't know about. So like, yeah, she's freaking cooked. Bye bye, buddy. And then Christian falls on the ground in order to help Devins hide his fake idol. Smooth, boys, smooth. Well, guys, that's going to be the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe and comment down below. What did you think of this episode? Did you think it was really wacky and goofy? And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.
Subscriber Bruce will be very sad, and Venus the Stinkers will be mega glad. And make sure to comment about how much Survivor sucks, and about how Liz loves Applebee's even though it's Bud. And hit the notification bell, because if you don't like you says it will be a big mistake. And David the doofus will throw milk in your face, and Camilla the killer will kill again, and Stinky Sue, it will make you smell her shoes, and Sage will take a dump on your face.
Hey everybody, this is Bruce here for season 45 Survivor. Now I, Bruce, the greatest Survivor player that ever exists, demand that all of you subscribe to Meme View, that's M-E-M-E, View, and hit the like button, or if you don't, you end up like me on season 44, alright? You don't want that, do you? Peace!